So I want to talk a little bit more about that bot, that harvesting bot. Could you explain that a little bit? Because that's something that it took me a little bit to understand as well. So is it harvesting, you know, all the coins that once it's launched on Uniswap, the forks on Uniswap and all that on PulseChain, or is it harvesting before the fork?
So it gets a little tricky there between, so the short version of how this thing works is that when we say it's a bot, somehow like a lot of times people think that it has like special things going on. All a bot does is automate what you would do if you did something, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially this PulseX is going to be a big store where you can go in and swap and buy all these tokens. And the Fixer bot is basically going to go to Walmart, Target, and whatever the grocery stores around these things. It's going to go buy all that stuff up and then bring it into the PulseX store. So the way that functions is it will actually be after the launch, this Fixer bot's going to go through and it's going to go to Uniswap V2, probably V1, possibly V3. It's a little different because it's not a symmetrical system, and Sushi Swap. And it's going to go there with a big bag of Pulse and start buying everything up. So it will buy, when we say harvesting and all these things, I just want to make sure we're being clear for a lot of the audience. Essentially, it just buys these things up, right? So there's a pool where there was ETH and whatever ERC20 project that you can think of. And it's going to literally buy all these PRC20s up. And a PRC20 is just the copy of an ERC20. So all these PRC20s are going to all get purchased. So it just literally goes through with this freshly minted Pulse and buys out all these liquidity pools. And then it reissues that same liquidity inside of PulseX at the correct ratio for the supply. So if you had say 1 ETH to, we'll say the price is 3,000. So when we say that ETH is $3,000, what we really mean is that there's 1 ETH for every 3,000 USDC that's in that pool, right? So Pulse has a 1.2 million times the supply. So to fix that same ratio, so we would it would now be 1.2 million Pulse to that same 3,000 USDC. And so that's the correcting ratio, and that's the reason this bot's going through. So all of that will be moved into PulseX, and it does that for a few reasons. One is to correct the supplies, right? Because if you didn't go through and correct, all of these PRC20s would be very undervalued. They'd be valued at 1 Pulse when that ratio should be 1.2 million. So you're essentially raising the price of all these PRC20s to be in the same relative nature they were to the native coin. And then also, not everyone cares about their users, their contracts, and wants these things to participate. So by purchasing up all that liquidity and then moving it over to PulseX, it also stops other communities and sort of more prominent people from being able to remove liquidity from a project. So, we'll just say there's Coin A. Maybe the dev team and the larger players in Coin A don't like us. They don't want you to be able to participate. They don't want you to network with low fees. Maybe they remove their liquidity and make it basically impossible to trade. Essentially, this would be, I don't want to say it's a rug pull, but a similar nature to a rug pull. You have this value, there's this liquidity, and it gets pulled. So once it's been purchased by the bot and then put into PulseX, you correct these ratios, you make this very, very strong liquid AMM, and you also stop people from being able to remove liquidity and allowing a lot of these smaller communities and other places to contribute and actually interact on Pulse.
Yeah.